Good morning, dear students of class 12. Welcome to the English online learning class. Today we are going to take up the first lesson from your Flamingo, the last lesson. Now let us know a little bit about the author Alfonso Daudet, 1840 to 1897. A French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson setting is in the days of the Franco-Prussian War, 1870 to 1871. And in this war, France was defeated by Prussia, led by Chancellor Bismarck. Prussia at that time consisted of what are now the nations of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. Well, in this story, the last lesson, the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine, they have passed into Prussian hands. And what is the impact of this announcement in the life of a school? So let us read the story to find out what effect did this news had on the life at school. Now the story begins like this. Franz, who is a school-going boy, I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. So this was Franz's worry. That morning, he was already late for school and he dreaded the scolding of the teacher, M. Hamel, who was his French teacher and was strict. He would be asking the students questions on participles, and Franz was not prepared for the class. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. So this thought came to Franz to bunk school. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open fields back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule of participles. But I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. So there were many temptations of bunking school. This bright sunny day, the birds were chirping, and in the back of the open field, the back of the sawmill, Prussian soldiers were drilling. So these were the many attractions which were urging him to bunk school. But then Franz had the courage to resist those temptations, and he decided otherwise, that is, to attend school and face the teacher's scolding. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? So on way to school, he passed through the town hall, and there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. The bulletin board displayed all the important news, and since last 2 years, all bad news were displayed on the bulletin board of lost battles, the orders of the commanding officer, etc. When he saw the crowd in front of the bulletin board, he thought, what could be the matter now? Then, as I hurried by, As fast as I could, the blacksmith watcher, who was there with his apprentice, reading the bulletin, called after me, "Don't go so fast, pup. You'll get to your school in plenty of time." As Franz was rushing, he was stopped by the blacksmith watcher, who was there reading in front of the bulletin board with his apprentice who is a junior who works under a master for some stipend. He learns that trade. So watcher stopped him and said, "Don't go fast. There is plenty of time." I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hamel's little garden all out of breath. Now, little Franz thought that watcher was making fun of him, and he almost reached M. Hamel's garden that was in the vicinity of the school, in the school compound, in the school premises, and he was running short of breath because he had almost run very fast as he was getting late for the school and he dreaded the teacher's scolding. Usually, when school began, there was great bustle which could be heard out in the street. So, this was the usual days. On usual days, there was a great noise and which could be heard out in the street. Noise due to opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, all together, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table, and the rapping of the teacher's ruler. So, but now it was all so still. But today the scene was different. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. So Franz had already planned out that he would quietly sneak in the noise without being noticed and he would occupy his seat. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. But that day everything was very quiet, so quiet as if it appeared like a Sunday morning, as if there was no school. Through the window, I saw my classmates already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. So, the students, the classmates had already occupied their places. They were in their desks, in their seats. And M. Hamel was walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. And Franz had to open the door and enter the class before everybody. And he was very much scared and blushing because he thought he would be scolded by his teacher. So that's all for today. You are going to read further the lesson at home and come up with your queries. So till now, we have taken up the first 2 pages of this lesson. If there is any query, you can post that in your WhatsApp group. Thank you. Take care and have